Alrighty, it is 10 o'clock. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another webinar from Exida, wherever you are in the world. I want to thank you for joining me today. Today, we're going to be talking about how to expedite SIL verification using exSILentia. Now, I am a frequent user of exSILentia, and I have performed SIL verification on multiple projects. And not just till recently did I figure out that exSILentia had this import feature that could help me expedite or speed up the process of SIL verification. And that is what we're going to be exploring today. The audio, just want to remind you, is for this webinar is provided through the GoToWebinar application, and you will be muted throughout the entirety of the webinar. Now, if you have any questions along the way, please feel free to enter them in the chat box, and we will definitely get to them at the end of the webinar. Now, a little bit about myself. My name is Casimir Musa. I am a certified functional safety professional here at Exida. My background is in mechanical engineering, and I graduated from the University of Texas at Tyler. Now, I've only been with Exida for just a little bit over a year, but within that time, I've had the opportunity to work with many areas of the company. More specifically, I've been able to work with the software development team, with the SIL alarm software that we have. But my main focus and my main responsibilities here at Exida are helping our end users reach their functional safety goals, helping them with process hazard analysis, helping them with SIL verification, alarm management, cybersecurity, vulnerability analysis, and the likes. So that's just a little bit about me. Now, I know many of you here are familiar with Exida, but I just wanted to take the time to explain or give a brief introduction to those that are not familiar with Exida. So as a whole, Exida, we really help our customers in three main areas. We were founded as a certification and assessment division. And so we started by working with manufacturers to provide certification to functional safety standards to really show that they were following a safe development life cycle. Over time, that has evolved to also include a number of cybersecurity standards, as well as machine and automotive standards. Our next group is our lifecycle services, which is where I am primarily focused. We work directly with end users to help them with implementing cybersecurity, safety, and alarm management solutions. Lastly, we have our product and enterprise tools division, where we have developed a number of lifecycle tools that really support the functional safety, alarm management, and cybersecurity activities that we use internally and offer to our customers as well. Now, Exida is a global customer-focused company. We have many locations around the world, and we continue to open new locations every year. I am currently located in the northeast part of the US, where we mostly work with customers in the chemical/oil and gas field. Now, we have several other locations that specialize in alarms, in the automotive field. So hopefully we have somebody close to you that can assist you with your functional safety goals. Now, as you know, we're going to be taking a look at the exSILentia software today and the import feature more specifically. But I just wanted to, one thing I wanted to point out from this slide is exSILentia allows you, or the beautiful thing about the software is you can seamlessly flow data throughout the project that you're working on. So let's say you start off with a process hazard analysis on the software, you can easily take the results and move that into your layer of protection analysis and flow throughout the different phases of the safety lifecycle. So that eliminates a lot of duplicate data entry and just keeps everything in one place for you to get back to. Now, this webinar, the agenda that we have today, obviously I'm going to share with you how to use this import feature in exSILentia. But before we get to that, we're going to have a brief introduction to SIL verification for those of us that are not familiar with that term. Then we're going to look at the project that got me to use this import feature and thereby kickstarted this idea for this webinar. And then we're going to have a live demo of exSILentia to use and to see how this feature works. Then we'll have a summary and let us begin. So SIL Design Verification. Now, when we talk about this, there are three things that you have to think about. So there are three barriers to SIL Design Verification. And the achieved SIL, which is the safety integrity level of the SIF, which is the safety instrumented function, is the minimum of the three. So let's say you go through your analysis, your random failure criteria, random failure barrier, you come up with a SIL 2, and you move on to the next barrier, your architectural constraints. You do your analysis, you come up with a SIL 2, and then you go through the final barrier, your systematic integrity, but you come up with a SIL 1. So what SIL do you have for your SIF? You have a SIL 1 SIF. So it is the minimum of the three barriers. And the objective of barrier 1 is to show sufficient defense against random hardware failures. Barrier 2 imposes minimum hardware redundancy requirements set by the standards, and the objective is to protect against unrealistic parameter estimates in the PFD average or the PFH calculation. The objective of barrier 3, which is the systematic integrity, is to show sufficient defense against systematic failures with the equipment chosen for the safety application. Now, all three requirements must be met to achieve a design that meets a given SIL level. And we can see on the charts on the table to our left, the SIL level and the corresponding probability of failure on demand average. And this applies to just the low demand mode. Now there is a high demand or high continuous mode chart, but that is not shown here. But we have many webinars, many papers on our website. If you want to know more about SIL design verification, you can jump on the website and get to that. So how did I get to this point? How did I come about to using this feature? What got me this idea to do this webinar? Now, I was working on a project that I had to perform SIL verification on 500 SIFs. Now, just going through the process of performing SIL verification on one SIF can take quite a bit of time because there are, little identification information for each SIF. In exSILentia, for you to start doing SIL verification, you have to define, the name and the description and all of that for each particular SIF. And when you bring that up to 500, you can see how much time that will take and how much time and how much effort that will take to put all of that information in exSILentia. And obviously, that's going to be a slow process, and there's a possibility of copying and pasting the wrong information in the wrong field, which I have done that before, and I just had to find a way to simplify this process. So like I was saying, SIF identification issues, like the SIF name that have to go in, the SIF description, the SIF tag for many different SIFs, and you begin to understand that this is going to take me a long time. There's a possibility of making errors, and not only that, that's not all the information that you have to input into exSILentia. You have these sensor groups, you have the final element groups that you have to make input. You have all these fields that you have to manually input for each SIF. And imagine if you're doing 500. Imagine, what you're looking at for each SIF. You have to put in the name, this, and you haven't even started doing the verification. These are just general information that you have to put in before you start picking your devices and doing your analysis from there. So that's what got me to this level. And one thing I want to point out is in exSILentia is capable of setting a default value for some of these fields, like the name, the proof test. No, not the name, the proof test, the mean response time, and some of these areas. But if you're looking at groups of SIFs, that have different, proof test intervals, different. If one is if partial valve stroke test is enabled or is not enabled, if you're looking at multiple different SIFs, then that default isn't going to help you so much. So you need to find a way to get all of these individual groups and their identification information into exSILentia. And again, that is what brought me to this point. That is what got me to figure out a way to simplify this process, and that's how I found the import feature. So now we're going to take a look at how we use this feature. So the first thing you have to do, for some of you that are familiar with exSILentia, you go into the library. You click the library icon, and then this is the next window that you're going to be facing. Now, the import feature can be used for many of these areas. All of these areas, the import feature can be used, but the areas that we're going to be looking at are the safeguards, the sensor groups, and the final elements. And that is what those are the only areas that concern us for this particular webinar. Now, when you go into these areas, what you need to do is export all rows. You export all rows, and then this is what you're going to look at when you export all rows. Now, before we continue, I just wanted to let you know that this file that exSILentia exports to you, this is just from a blank project. You have nothing in exSILentia. It is completely empty, and this is what you will export from those areas. There is no SIF or no special thing that needs to be done. You just go in there and you export all of this. This is what we call a pro format template. It is essentially creating a format that is needed to successfully make that import back into exSILentia. So you don't have to manually create any of this. You just export that, and you move on with your life. Now, the next thing that I wanted to show here is not all of the columns are needed to be imported back into exSILentia. You use the ones that you need and you get rid of the ones that you don't need. Like you can see here, some of them I have completely shortened down. I've just put maybe the mean response time, the proof test interval. That's all I needed for some of the sensors. And then for the final elements, I had what I needed, and then the rest of the columns were not needed. So you don't need all of the columns from the default exports. Now, a tip that I wanted to put out there is for the safeguard only, the safeguard import, you can remove the ID column, which you can see. You do not need this column because it is not necessary. Just get rid of the column as you would get rid of other columns that you do not need, because exSILentia will automatically assign an ID for each SIF. And the next thing is you have to make sure that the isif column is defined as true. If you do not define this as true, which I unfortunately did not, you will not see the SIF show up in exSILentia. It is in exSILentia. It won't show up. It will show up in exSILentia, but it won't show up in the silver module. That is the module that we perform SIL verification in. So you have to make sure that it is defined as true in the isif, and those are some tips that I thought that I would let you guys know about. Now, wow, we have put in our information into the Excel files. We have made sure that all of the columns are well done and well defined. Then all we have to do is come back here and import all of that information, the safeguards to the safeguard area, the sensor groups to the sensor group area, the final element to the final element area. And the best practice is just to import all files at the same time, all files at once. And also the project file. The project file needs to be saved. After you've made all of these imports, you have to save the project and you have to reload that project to see the results in the silver module. Now, I will show you what I mean when I say reload in the live demo. We will get to that. So we have made our import, and voila, we have all of the SIFs that we have defined in our imports. It's all in there. This is not does not need to be manually done anymore. This is all in exSILentia. Now, after we have made all of that import, the next thing that we have to do is we start to select our group tags. So for each SIF and each sensor group, the sensor groups are typically the tag information, or the information for each sensor group, are typically correlated with each SIF. I mean, that is how I did it. I mean, other people can do it differently, but the next step is to pick out, okay, this is a sensor type, this is the name, this is the final element. So you just go about picking the sensor information and the final element information, and then voila, you have all that time saved. You can see all of these fields have been defined. All of these fields have been defined. Now you can move on with the project. You can move on with defining what devices am I going to use for my sensors, what devices am I going to use for my final elements, and you can see how simple it is. How simple, how time saving it is to just use this feature to get all of that information, basic information, into exSILentia so you can focus more on other things. Now, we have reached the point of this webinar where I show you the live demo of exSILentia and using this feature. So bear with me 1 second. Here we are. This is exSILentia. This is a blank project, and this is the silver module that I've been talking about. This is where we perform, I know some of you are familiar with this. This is where we perform SIL verification. So let us get to how do we use this in a live setting. Now, like I said, we go to the library, and then we can see the library window. We go to safeguards, sensor groups, and the final element groups. Now, I've taken the liberty of preparing SIF information so we can just make that import in here. So we're going to look at the final element group, and then voila, that's the final element. Then now we're going to move to the sensor group and make that import as well. And there we go, it's in there. And then we finally go to the safeguards group and we make that import. And there we go. Like I said, exSILentia will assign an ID for the SIFs. You don't need to have that column there. Now we have all of this. We close this out. Now, when I say you have to reload the project, this is what I mean. First of all, we save the project, like it says here. We save the project, then we reload the project like we're starting the project again. Because if we don't do that, we don't see them here. We don't see the SIF information defined in the silver module. So that's why we need to reload the project after we've saved it. And then, like you can see, you have all of the SIFs here, and you can see the sensor part. It's all in there. It's all defined. Go into the final element part. We've defined all of that. So you can see how much time that I have saved by just using this feature, putting it in there, and then now I can just go about picking what kind of devices am I going to use. You save so much time. You don't have to worry about all of this typical SIF identification information. You are in there and you are ready to go. So that is pretty much the function, and that is pretty much a live view of how this import feature works and how you can save you so much time and so much energy. So now, as a summary, the feature is, like I've said, it can be used in many other areas. In pretty much all of the areas in the library, you can use this feature to speed up the process of doing various projects on exSILentia. It improves accuracy and speed, it saves you time, and I guess one other thing that I really like to make note of is the project with the 500 SIFs. Me using the feature took me about 100 hours. And if I did not make use of that feature, it would easily take me double the time. easily double that time. So because it takes so much time just to get the right identification information for each particular SIF and get it into the system, easily uh, um, um, double that time. So that is the end of the webinar that we have today. If you guys have any questions for me, um, before that, some people might even come up with a question like, can this import feature allow you to make updates to existing SIFs already in the silver, or already in exSILentia? And the answer to that is no. As of this recording, you cannot make updates to your SIF. So let's say you have a group of SIFs that you want to change the proof test interval, and instead of changing them one by one, you want to use the import feature to make that change and import that change into exSILentia. As of this recording, that is, you will not be able to do that. exSILentia will create new entries for each SIF, even though they have the same name, the same tag, the same description. Just because of that little change in the proof test interval or whatever area that you change, it'll just make new entries. So that is something that I wanted to have you guys know about. So if there are any other questions, I am here and I'm looking to see if anyone has any questions for me. So if any of you have any questions, you can feel free to post that now. But if nobody, if and I'll give you guys a few minutes or so, maybe to get your questions in place. And that is my email there. If you don't think of something right now and you need to reach out to me, that is my email. You can put it down and you can reach out to me directly for more guidance on how to use this feature and any other intricacies about this feature. Okay, seems like I'm not getting any questions. I hope that means that I was very clear with my presentation. I hope you guys were able to see and see through the live demo and through the presentation how beneficial this feature is in saving you time and reducing errors and all of that. Now, before we get out of here, I just wanted to put up some of the upcoming courses that we have here at Exida. If you want to know more about IEC 61508, so many different courses that we hold here online and live, all remote, and you wanted to schedule, you can easily go to our website and pick out whichever one that you are interested in. So you just go to exeter.com, find the courses that correlate to what you want, and pick those out. So these are the upcoming courses for the next quarter. And we also have online self-paced training available. This is where you can go to our training websites and just go on your own and learn about all different areas on the safety lifecycle, process hazard analysis, layer protection analysis with exSILentia, SIL verification with exSILentia. So you can learn about all of this on our website with the cost and the time. So that is the end of this webinar. Um, thank you all very much for joining me today to learn how you can expedite SIL verification with exSILentia. I hope you learned something, and I will see you on the next one. Thank you guys very, very much.